Yeah, I think it's on stream now.
Yep, it's just loading. There we go.
Yeah. Well, let's get ready for the puja. And the first thing is to give you 5 precepts. So say Namo Tassa 3 times to observe 5 precepts. Put your palms at your chest level and then, yeah.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranam gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranam gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Yampi buddhang saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tutiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tutiyampi sanghang saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Yampi buddhang saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranam gacchami.
Panati pata viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata varamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami.
Adinna dana viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Dinadana varamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami.
Kamesu miccāchāra viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Ame sumichachara varamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami.
Musāvāda viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Sabada varamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami.
Suramiraya majjapama daṭṭhāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Ramare majjapamadatthana varamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sit. Where is Sela?
So she will join. She's just preparing. So she will join at the end of the puja.
Okay, but next time if she can come to the puja, it's good too because we everyone here. If there's anything we can talk, right? So all the teachers and everyone here, so it'll be nice next time. Okay. Okay, so now it's time to offer all the offering that we all individually prepared and place in front of the Buddha statues at your home. I hope that all of you place something in front of the Buddha statue before taking your seat, right? At least a glass of water. So let's contemplate on the great qualities of the Buddha and then start doing our puja. Hello Maya, how are you? Okay, first homage to the Buddha 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Veneration to the Buddha. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sugato loka vidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarate sattadeva manussanang buddho bhagavati. Please recite with me, huh? Recite together because I want you to recite with me, huh? Veneration to the Dhamma. Swankhato bhagavata dhammo sandittiko akaliko ehi passiko opanaiko pachattang veditabbu vinyuhite. Veneration to the Sangha. Supatipanno Bhagavatu Savaka Sangho. Ujupatipanno Bhagavatu Savaka Sangho. Nyayapatipanno Bhagavatu Savaka Sangho. Samiti Patipanno Bhagavatu Savaka Sangho. Yadidang Chattari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pungala Esa Bhagavatu Savaka Sangho. Ahuneyu Pahuneyu Dakhineyu Anjali Karaniyu Anuttarang Punyaketang Lokasati. Offering candles. Ganasarappadittina Deepena Tamadangsina Tiloka Deepang Sangbundhang Pujayami Tamonudang. Offering incense. Ganda Sambhara Yuttena Dupenahang Sugandhina Pujaye Pujaniyantang Puja Bhajana Muttamang. Offering flowers. Vanne Gandhe Gunopetang Etang Kusuma Santating Pujayami Munindassa Siri Pada Saruruhe Pujemi Buddhang Kusumena Nena Punyena Mete Nachahotu Mokhang Puphang Milayati Yatha Idammi Kayu Tathayati Vinasa Bhavang. Offering medicinal drinks including water. Adivase tuno bhante paniyang parikappitang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muttamang. Adivase tuno bhante gilana pachayang imang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muttamang. Adivase tuno bhante bhesajjang parikappitang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muttamang. Veneration to of all the pagodas of Buddha's relics and the Bodhi tree. Vandami chetiyang sambang sabbadhani supatittitang saririka dhatu mahabodhing buddhirupang sakalang sada yasya mule nisinnova sabbari vijayang akha patto sabbanyutang santha vande tang bodhipadapang. Apologizing from the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So, if we made any mistake for the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha by ways of our body, speech, and mind, here is the time we're going to apologize. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamami bhante bhuri panya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamami dhamma sandittika akalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamami sangha supatipanna anuttara. Aspiration. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pantiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so let's move on to the meditation. So please keep to your postures. So keep your back, head and neck straight. Don't need to lean on to your backrest of the chair. Put your right palm on the left palm and close your eyes. Close your eyes, please. We're going to be practicing loving kindness meditation. You know, metta, which is the first virtue Buddha taught us. The second is karuna, compassion. Third is mudita, altruistic joy. Fourth is upekkha, the highest virtue in Buddhist teachings, equanimity. So we always start with metta and then slowly, gradually extend to other virtues. But inside metta, there is a certain way of extending loving kindness. That is to start with us and then slowly, gradually extend to our beloved people, and then we end up with all living beings. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always meet with success. May I, may I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable problems, difficulties, failures in life. May my parents, family members, relatives, friends, all in different persons, enemies, all living beings, be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. So let's contemplate on these aspects of loving kindness meditation for faith. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now let's transfer good merits to departed relatives and share good karmas with the devas and nagas deities. First, departed relatives. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayu. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti sindhya. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti sindhya. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhanthu loka sasanang. Akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhanthu desanang. Akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhanthu mang paranti. Okay, now it's time to worship the monastics community. So I would ask Ovini to lead.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Silavantam, gunavantam, punyakirtam, anuttaran. Dullavena, mayaladam, buddha puttan namamaha. Silavantam, gunavantam, punyakirtam, anuttaran. Dullavena, mayaladam, buddha puttan namamaha. Silavantam, gunavantam, punyakirtam, anuttaran. Dullavena, mayaladam, buddha puttan namamaha.
And then we move on to venerating parents. So please approach your parents, and then we will start venerating mother first. Dasamasi ure katva posesi buddhi karanang ayudighang vassa satang matu padang namamahang. Dasamasayak දුක් විඳ මා හැදු අම්මේ ලේ කිරි කර පොවා මා දැඩි කළ අම්මේ නිවසේ බුදුන් යැයි බුදු හිමි දෙසු අම්මේ ඔබ පායුග වඳිමි මා ආදර අම්මේ. Father, බුද්ධිකාරෝ අලිංගිත්වා චුම්බිත්වා පිය පුත්තකං රාජ මජ්ජං සුපතින්ඨං පීතු පාදං නමාමහං. නැති බැරි කමක් මට නොදැනෙන නියායෙනි දුක් කරදර මැදින් මා හැදු දයාවෙනි. හොඳ දරුවෙකු වෙන්න මට දුන් ඔවා මිනි ඔබ පායුග වඳිමි මා ආදර පියාණෙනි. Okay, please get back to your seats. And then we all going to bless all of you. Abhivadana silissa niccang vaddha pachayino chattaru dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha atu nibbana sampatti iminate saminchatu. Okay, now it's time to sing the Dhamma school song. So please rise and then sing. Let's go. Okay. Okay, stand upright. Lean onto the walls. Okay. Okay. Yeah, over to you, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. It's good to see everybody again. A point of note, I think, so right now I'm looking at this just for ease of viewing. I have changed my view, so I'm seeing this all as a grid layout, but I realize that that only changes my own view through Zoom. So you might be seeing it spotlighted on whoever is currently speaking. So if you, the live stream will have my view because I'm the host. But if you want to see it in a different layout, in the upper right hand corner, there's a view button, and if you click on that, it'll give you two options: speaker view or gallery view. I prefer gallery because you can see everybody.
Mike, I think the live view is okay.
Yeah, the live view is fine.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, because that's what I've got. But if you might not all see that. So that's why I'm telling you right now. So if you're in the meeting and you want to change your view, it's in the upper right-hand corner over here.
Yeah. Over here. Speaker view, right? Speaker view.
Speaker view. So you can change that so you can see everybody at once. So you might prefer that. If you don't have that on, I recommend it. Okay, and let's see. So last time we got through the lower realms. We were discussing all of the we started with human beings this year in September, and we started working our way down the ladder of samsara in Buddhist mythology and cosmology. There's the book right there. There's a link in the chat to the book. And today we're on page 354. So we finished discussion of the lower realms when we got through the nirayas or hells and things like that. Thank goodness we are on our journey upward to the more pleasant states. Oh, do I see? We're supposed to have a breakout room with Selah, but I don't see her on yet. Seth, do you know where she is?
I can see if she's on yet or if she's having trouble or something.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just double check on that really quick. And to Delathan Dilon, sorry, we will get you in your right meeting room in a second. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so soon we will start talking about the higher realms in Buddhist mythology. So we'll be talking very soon about devas and the heavens and all those kind of things, the nicer places. But we've got a couple of short stops on the way back up the ladder, and there are a bunch of miscellaneous kind of sort of assorted beings that don't really fit into these buckets. So you've got humans, animals, ghosts, Niraya beings, all these in this. These are big, broad groups, but there are other kinds in the mythology of kind of assorted beings. Like we have yakas, which I think we've mentioned a few times, and today we're going to talk about asuras, which are another kind of being that in the stories they don't really fit into any of those categories. So we're going to discuss them on our way back up. What's an asura? What are they like? What is it like to be an asura? You know, if beings are born as asuras, what is that experience like? Is it pleasant? Is it painful? What causes beings to become asuras? So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And that's just all a spiel, so I can give Selah time to get here. There she is, and also so you can find everybody can find the page. All right, so Selah, Delok, and Delon, I'm going to put you all in a breakout room. Let's see here, assign manually. Create one breakout room, and we'll put Delok and Delon and Selah. There you go.
Could you also put Maya in the same breakout room?
Oh yeah, for sure, of course. Yeah. There we go. There you are. So this should work. Okay. So okay, there you go. So now Maya and Delek and Blown, you just have to, oh, I think it's just loading you in. There we go. Okay, perfect. Everybody's in the right room now. Okay, good. So presumably you have all found page 354. This one's a really interesting lesson, I think, because we get to talk a little bit about the relationship between Buddhist mythology and like the mythology of other cultures, because it doesn't exist in isolation. Buddhist mythology wasn't just like created out of nowhere by the Buddha himself. It is from a culture, and that culture comes from an ancestor culture before it. And so there are a lot of elements of that, especially when we talk about asuras. And I think that stuff is just really fascinating and interesting. I don't know what it tells us about morality, but it tells us about people. And I think that is still valuable. So let's start with, let's see, we usually start with Seth because but today Dilika joined first. So the reward is that Dilika gets to start reading. Would you read the first paragraph on the Asuras on page 254?
Got it. The Asuras are a separate class of race of beings who dwell at the foot of Mount Sinru and are perpetually at war with the Devas. In English translation, they are sometimes referred to as titans or as anti-gods. The theme of a war in heaven and the overthrow of an older race of gods by a new generation is found in many Indo-European cosmologies. In Greek myth, we have the Olympians led by Zeus battling the Titans, and in the Norse version, it is the gods of Asgard against the storm giants. This would seem to indicate that the motif is a very ancient one, predating the expansion of the Aryans out of their original homeland.
Great, yeah. So the word Aryan, of course, we use this word in Buddhism fairly often. We use like Arya. So what's an Arya in Buddhist terminology? What does that mean? Does anybody know? No idea. I think we hear about Aryapogala in Pali. Sometimes it's translated as like a noble person. So Arya is the Pali for Arya in Sanskrit, which is this. It originally referred to a race or a group of people or an ethnic group, and they seem to have been the ancestors of the people who came out of somewhere in Central Asia, and they came through Europe and Iran and India, and they brought their language with them. So many languages today are descended from their language, including English, Hindi, Sinhala, Pali, Gaelic, Latin, Greek. They're all part of one big culture group, and they share common mythology. That's why we see it in Norse mythology, in Greek mythology, in Hindu and Buddhist mythology. It's all from this same original cultural group. But when we see this word, the Aryans, this word means a different thing in Buddhist terminology. So originally it referred to an ethnic group, these people who migrated out of Asia somewhere. And when they came into India, they became a dominant class. And so it meant to them, it meant a noble. Like, we are the Aryans. We came in, we started ruling people. We're the Aryans, we're the noble ones. We're the people who are in charge. So the Buddha sort of changed the meaning of this a bit. He used the term, but it meant a person who became noble through their character, not through their race or birth. So we use the term as well, but it changes meaning slightly when the Buddha uses it. So that's important. So anyway, but it is a culture. It did originally refer to culture. And they have all these myths about deities fighting each other in heaven. And that seems to be the source of this common mythology. Naomi, why don't you read paragraph 2?
The name Asura is found already in the Veda.
It's pronounced Rig. It's hard to say. Rig Veda, yeah.
In the earliest times, it was no more than a general term applied to the gods. This is mirrored in the Persian Ahura, which refers to the good deities, whose chief is Ahura Mazda. In India, however, the Asuras came to be identified as a separate class opposed to the Devas, who were also called Sura, so that we have the conflict between the Suras and the Asuras, gods and anti-gods. The Devas or Suras came to represent the forces of light and spiritual progress, while the Asuras were the partisans of darkness and the lower appetites.
Yeah, and this is I think it's a uniquely Indian thing. In other places, the gods and the anti-gods, like in European mythology or Persian mythology, there's not a moral angle to it all the time, especially in Greek mythology. We know in Greek mythology, the gods are not particularly moral. They just do whatever they want. But in Indian mythology, that is not so. Okay, Ovindu, why don't you read? Let's see here. Do we have enough? Yeah. Okay, we won't read all the snippets from the stories and stuff. So yeah, read the next paragraph, please.
Okay, sure. The Buddhist version of the Asuras is close to this latter conception. They were a race of deities older than the Devas, the original inhabitants of Tavatisma. They are definitely portrayed as of a lower spiritual nature than the Devas. A passage in the Anguttara commentary describes the Devas as virtuous, beautiful, and pleasing, whereas the Asuras are simply vile. The Asuras are listed among the four unhappy states of rebirth, together with the beings in Niraya, animals, and Petas. The Asuras are portrayed in the Pali sources as rough, prone to anger, and not very bright or courageous.
Yeah, so they're kind of like rowdy, dirty, smelly gods, kind of. It's kind of it's sort of an awkward fit. They actually in Theravada, we often talk about the 5 realms of existence, or 5 classes of existence. That's talking about, of course, what we're already discussing: the devas, humans, animals, petas, and niraya beings, hell beings. So that's the 5 classes of existence. But in Mahayana schools, they refer to 6. They give the asuras their own category. So they add an extra category and they classify asuras as their own thing because they're different enough from all the other things to warrant their own classification. And I don't think everybody agrees on how pleasant or unpleasant it is to be an asura, because they have a lot of power, but they're also sort of unhappy all the time. So it's a really awkward fit, because they're more powerful than humans, but they are still not happy anyway, which is really strange. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, that's very good. Let's do Ovini read the next paragraph.
Sure, okay. The separation of the Asuras and Devas and the origin of their conflict is part of the story of Magha and his companions who were reborn as Sakka and the rest of the 33. When Sakka and the rest appeared in Tavatisma, the Asuras were already dwelling there. The story of what happened next is told several times in the commentaries with some variations.
Great, awesome. And Seth, why don't you read the Jataka commentary's simple version of the story?
Okay. The Jataka commentary version is the simplest. At that time, the Asuras were dwelling in Tavatisma. Sakka, king of the Devas, said, "I will not share this kingship." He gave the Asuras a divine drink, which made them drunk, and taking them by the feet, threw them down Mount Sinatu.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So very simply, he just got them drunk, and then one by one threw them down the hill, and that was it. And then they sit, and ever since they sit at the foot of Mount Sinadu, trying to climb back up and fighting constant wars with the Devas to get back up there. This is also in this almost exactly the same motif is found in Hindu mythology as well, although the cause of the initial war is somewhat different, but it is also it does also involve a drink. So that I think the Hindu version, if I'm not much mistaken, involves there was this primordial ocean of nectar, and the devas and the asuras churned it to get this like holy nectar of immortality out of it, and then they fought over the nectar. And eventually the devas got it and the asuras didn't, and they're always trying to get the nectar from the devas. So there's a similar kind of motif. They're fighting, there's a drink involved. Yeah, so that's the simplest version of the story. But as I say, there are many different versions of this, even not just Buddhist versions. But in the Buddhist reckoning, their proper original homeland was Tavatimsa. And Tavatimsa is is the home of the 33 great devas who reside in Tavatimsa heaven. Sakka is also known as Indra sometimes, and Indra is if you haven't heard of Indra before, Indra is how he's usually known in Hindu mythology. He's like the king of the devas. He's similar to Zeus or to Odin or things like that. So he's a high god, a father god, a king god, that kind of thing. But he's not the highest figure in samsara. There's still Brahma and so on. So there are like higher gods even than that. But he's one of the highest devas that exist. Beyond that, you get into like the Brahma realms and so on. All right. So yeah, so there's bad blood between. Let me see. Yeah, okay, let's skip to page 356. There we go. Yeah, and on page 356, there's a paragraph at the bottom of Mount Seneru. I will read that for you because it's kind of long. At the bottom of Mount Seneru, a 10,000 yojana realm arose for the asuras to live in. And by the force of their kamma, the asura bhavana, that is the name of the place. The principal feature of this place is the chittapatali, the trumpet flower tree, which grows there and lasts for an entire kappa. So this is also similar to Norse mythology. They have this tree in Asgard. Asgard also, by the way, Aesir is cognate with Asura. So these words are the same origin. When the tree flowered, the Asuras knew by the difference in its blossoms that this was not the Deva's Parithataka tree, and they were no longer in Tavatimsa. So they woke up after they had this drunken party, and then they were like, that's not the right tree. This would indicate that otherwise the Asura Bhavana resembled the original appearance of Tavatimsa. So it's very similar it looks similar to Tavatimsa in other respects. The Asura Bhavana is located at the very bottom of Mount Seneru, under the ocean. And the Asuras have to cleave the waters of the sea in two in order to ascend Mount Seneru and attack the Devas. So they are, they're literally living underwater. They are also said to keep pavilions by the shore, the place where Mount Seneru rises from the ocean, which they use for enjoyment. So they do have like beachside resorts, but they live in the water. So it's kind of backwards. They come up out of the water to have, enjoy resorts on land. It is definitely sort of strange. And this is why I mentioned earlier that it's hard to categorize them, because that sounds like a nice existence. They get to like spend time at beach resorts and, have a good time, but also they're miserable anyway. So it's very hard to, they have positive sense stimuli that they have access to. Their physical environment is like Tavatimsa heaven, but they are also miserable somehow. And I think that's a really interesting kind of paradox. Okay, Dilika, why don't you read the next paragraph?
Mike, yeah, what page is it again?
Oh, 356 at the very bottom, the last paragraph. It should not be thought.
Should not be thought. It should not be thought that the Asuras are in the sense of aquatic beings. The water of the oceans are for them only a gateway to their realm. As we saw in the case of the Nagas, It is only that their realm resembles a Deva world. But the Asuras themselves are said to be like the Devas in lifespan, appearance, essence, power, and wealth. Therefore, we might imagine the Devas looking down from the Tavatisma and seeing the Asura realm as if it were their own distorted mirror image reflected the surface of the great ocean. The Devas embody the epitome of worldly sensuality, and the Asuras represent the opposite of defilement of hatred, jealousy, and anger, with the human realm midway between the two.
Yeah, so this is an interesting take on it, in that it usually samsara is depicted in a very linear kind of way. Like things just get better and better as you go up. Beings are more virtuous, they are more temperate, they experience more pleasure. And as you go down, you have less power, less agency, experience more pain, and that kind of thing. That's what we see. Like it's more painful to be a niraya being than an animal. You have less freedom, less agency, less lucidity and clarity, and all those things. But the asuras are kind of odd because they have power and agency and wealth and stuff, but they are like the reflected, as though reflected through the like plane of samsara, like a mirror negative image of the gods. Yeah, the devas embody the epitome of worldly sensuality. That is to say that they experience sense pleasures. The devas are not, when it says they like the epitome of worldly sensuality, devas experience sense pleasures, and this is an important thing we're going to talk about later. So in the heavenly realms, according to the traditional conception, as you go up, the pleasure becomes more abstract. So it's said that, like, for example, human beings, so like when it comes to romantic relationships, human beings engage in, like, there's multiple levels, right? You have, when you love your partner, you love them emotionally, intellectually, physically, like there are all these different layers of that love. And in the Deva worlds, that's also true, but they tend to, as you go up, they trend toward the more abstract layers. So at the higher realms, devas do pair. So there's like male and female devas, and they marry and they come together. But at the highest levels, they don't even necessarily touch each other ever. They just, it's like a mental relationship only, right? And so they do. So that's just an example. But there are sense pleasures in the deva realms, but as you go up, they become more abstract. But that's not true for the asuras. They are not prudes in any way. Okay, good. We'll just skip that next bit. Okay. All right, let's go down to page 358. The last paragraph there. Naomi, why don't you tell me about the war of the Asuras against the Devas?
From having woken up?
Nope. Skip that one. Go to the next page. That one down there. There's a
After the victory?
Go to the war of the Asuras.
Okay. The war of the Asuras against the Devas is a perpetual one. It breaks out into active hostilities whenever the Chittapatali tree flowers remind the Asuras of what they have lost. It is, however, a hopeless struggle. The two cities of the Devas and of the Asuras are said to be impregnable. When the Asuras are stronger, the Devas flee into their city and close the gates, and even hundreds of thousands of Asuras cannot storm the walls. Likewise, when the Devas are stronger, they cannot force their way into the Asura city. Despite the ferocious appearance and angry nature of the Asuras, these wars are very low in casualties.
Yeah, and there's a very good reason for that. Ovindu, it's in the next paragraph. If you skip the quotation, and just read the next paragraph. It tells us why.
In any case, according to the Abhidhamma Kosa, the Devas are hard to kill. They can only be killed by cutting off their heads or cutting them in half through the waist. If their arms or legs are cut off, they can regenerate. In the same passage states that the Devas never kill one another. It is not stated whether these rules apply to the Asuras as well.
Right. Okay. Good. But first of all, the Abhidhamma Kosha is a it's not a Mahayana text, but it's also not Theravada. In the early period, Buddhism split up very quickly into a bunch of different schools, and it's from a lost school that is no longer practiced. And it's a Sarvastivada book that the author makes reference to a lot. So these interpretations are commentarial literature from an extinct school, but it's an early school, and that they were of the opinion that the devas can only be killed in these ways, and that they don't kill each other. So that's not in the suttas themselves, but from above we have this sutta quote saying that the battles are not fought with cutting off the skin or hide or the flowing of blood. They fight only like young forest rams do, seeking to raise fear and trembling in their foes. They make war like cowherd boys, beating one another with sticks. So of course we've seen in probably nature documentaries, you see animals like wrestling or jostling and stuff, but usually nobody dies or even gets badly hurt. It's mostly for show and posturing. So that's kind of how these wars play out in according to the Buddhist mythology. It's almost like play war, you know. And it's mostly just because they're so tough, but also maybe because they don't fully commit. Okay. Ovini, we have another interesting paragraph here on the consequences of these wars for humans.
Okay. The behavior of humans can have an effect on the outcome of these wars. When human morality is generally good, more people take a higher rebirth and swallow the ranks of Deva hosts. However, during the times when human behavior is shameless and the moral more become reborn in the Asura realm, increasing the size of their army. At such times, the Devas are disappointed because there are not enough of them to play the game of constellation.
Yeah. Okay, good. So there's a footnote there. It says no details of the game are given. It's but it seems to require like a large group of people. So the game is it's like a sport game, I guess, like soccer where you need a big team, right? So it's not, but we don't know what this game is. It's a game played by the gods. Whatever it is, it's not really laid out in much detail. But apparently they need a big team to play it. And if there aren't enough humans going to the Deva worlds, then they can't play their game or fight off the Asuras. But yeah, the attrition, of course, if we think about it this way, like why would there be fewer Devas? Given that the Asuras don't kill the Devas really that much, and the Devas don't kill each other, why would there be so few Devas? Where do they go? What happens to them? Why are they not there? Anybody got any thoughts? So if we got all these gods up here, why are they disappearing?
Sorry. What were you saying?
Oh no, I'm asking. I'm fielding a question. So it's saying that the Devas sometimes they don't have enough numbers, and the Asuras, if people are generally badly behaved, they become Asuras, and then the Asuras get more guys, and then they can sometimes beat the Devas, and vice versa. But why? Why would Devas go away? Like, why would there be fewer Devas? They don't die in the war. It's clear they're not dying in the war. So where are they going?
Is it because the number of merit required to become a Deva is very substantial?
That's true. But but once you're in, why would you stop being a Deva? It's because Devas are mortal. They are not immortal. Devas don't live forever in the Buddhist conception of the world, right? I just wanted to drive that point home. The Devas aren't getting killed by Asuras or each other, but they still die. They still die one day. And this is something that they themselves forget. And this is an important thing. And this is why going to heaven is not the ultimate objective of Buddhism, because it's fine for a while, but that's all. And eventually, even though it's a very long time and it's a nice time, and even if you get in a fight, it's not a fatal fight and nobody dies. So, I mean, that's not too bad. But ultimately, you still get sick and die all of a sudden. That's the way the Devas go out. Just one day, their merit runs out, and suddenly in a very short period they just decay and disappear, and that's it. So eventually every deva will go that way, and so over a long enough period, that attrition takes them out and will empty that realm. It will become less numerous, and the beings will go elsewhere when they run out of merit. Okay. Good. All right, let's look at, where are we? I'll just read this last paragraph to this through. Okay. Oh, no. Actually, you know what? Let's read that quote. Where were we? Was it Ovindu? Did you read the last one? Who was the last one?
It was me.
Okay. All right. Okay. Seth, why don't you read the quote here on rare occasions?
On rare occasions, the Asura Devas might impinge on the human. Asura Deva wars might impinge on the human realm. At one time, a certain man was sitting on the bank of the Sumagadhya lotus pond near Rajagaha. While he was sitting there, he saw a fourfold army, infantry, elephants, cavalry, and chariots, enter into a lotus plant. I must be mad. I must be insane. I have seen that which does not exist in the world.
Okay, great. Yeah. So some explanation of that. So Sumagadhaya, lotus pond. Sumagadhaya is like Magadha was a kingdom is a very powerful kingdom in that region. So I believe it controlled the town of Rajagriha. Rajagriha is the Sanskrit name. In Pali is Rajagaha. It's still around. It's still a town in India. It's called Rajgir now. And it's a pilgrimage site for Buddhists. You can visit Rajagaha. It's still populated. Like it's still an actual town full of people. It's not just a ruin. And while he was sitting there, he saw this army enter into. So it like climbed into a flower. Like this whole army just like climbed into a little flower. And he goes, "Wow, that's crazy. There's no way that happened." But later I think the story was relayed to the Buddha, and then he spoke about it, and he said that the man was not mad, that what he saw was actually so. The Devas had defeated the Asuras in a battle, and the Asuras in their terror had fled back to their realm through the lotus plant, to the utter confusion of the Devas. So they were doing this strange thing to kind of hide and get away. Sometimes the impact of the Asura wars on humans is more direct and harmful. It is said that there are seers living by the shores of the great ocean, and that when the Asuras are defeated in battle and flee back to their own realm, they pass through the hermitages of these seers. Seers like sages or like just meditators or like, that kind of thing. The Asuras believe that the seers are devotees of Sakka and assist him with their advice. Being enraged, the Asuras on their way through destroy the leaf huts, walkways, and fruit trees of the seers. So they're just sort of ascetic monks living there. They're not necessarily Buddhist monks, but they're just some kind of hermit. And the Asuras don't like them because they're afraid, because these people are so holy that they are close to the Devas and that they'll hurt them, so that they don't pass on their information. But I don't think that's something that we have to worry about particularly. We're not super likely to be assailed by armies of Asuras. It's probably not a problem most of us will face in our lives. The Asuras, though, can still offers a kind of a lesson. Obviously, a lot of these things are just stories. Maybe there's some level of truth to it, but I would hesitate to take it too literally. Like I've said before, the author of this book is one of my teachers, and I talked to him about, these kind of cosmological things. And I said, okay, he definitely is an old-fashioned monk. He believes that rebirth is literal and true. But I said, how much of this do you think is literally true? How much of are there these realms with the Devas and Asuras and these neat little categories? And he said, I don't think very much of it is literally true. So bear that in mind. Even the author is just, this is a study of the way that these things have been believed by people in the past. But we don't necessarily have to take them too literally. In a kind of metaphorical sense, we can even understand the Asuras as being a very particular state of mind that I think many people experience here on Earth. As I've said, the Asuras experience pleasure and power and agency. which is extremely unusual in samsara. Humans have this ability to, like, with agency, to make choices. We can go, all right, I have a moral decision now. I have the freedom to choose. I can go here, I can live there, I can work this job, I can do what I want. Very few beings have this option, this power, and also the rationality to understand what we're doing, make decisions, to recognize friend from foe or danger, and to make rational long-term decisions on this basis. So the Asuras have a lot of these qualities, but and they have great pleasure as well. They have leisure time. They live in a beautiful realm that resembles Tavatimsa heaven, but they're still miserable all the time. And I think there are a lot of actual human people that live in that condition here and now. People who often chase wealth and power, who want to be, big superstars, maybe to be famous or powerful, to be big CEOs or whatever. I'm not saying that people who are in those positions in life are bad, but there are many people who occupy those positions who feel, even though they have power, wealth, these kind of things, they still are dissatisfied, and they're miserable with their lives anyway. And I think that's a really common problem, and that's the kind of state of the asura. As an example, you have your high-powered business executive or whatever who flies around the world, back before COVID, flies around the world and goes on expensive vacations and has money for nice mansions and yachts and all these things, but they're still miserable. That kind of person is real and fairly common. And I think it should serve as a warning to us, not that we should avoid all wealth. Although renouncing the world is good and the ultimate objective of Buddhism, having worldly things come your way and enjoying them while they're there, as long as we're observing the precepts, it's okay. It's not like we're evil for doing that. But seeking them out as ends in themselves can make us miserable. Like I and some people I know have been very fortunate. We have we have our homes, we have some wealth, we have some leisure time, and that's nice. But I'm also quite happy. And I don't think that comes from those things that I own. It's like an internal state of mind. And so that, I think, is the difference between the asuras and the devas, is the attitude that they have. And so that is also, we can definitely learn a lesson from that and apply it in our daily lives. We can say, okay, well, I have wealth, leisure, opportunity, whatever it may be right now. But I have the choice to be an asura or a deva is about whether I can be contented with this and also let it go and behave in a wholesome way, and be virtuous at the same time. And then if you can do that, then the internal contentment goes with it, and that's much better. So I think that's what we can learn from this lesson, talking about the asuras today. Does anybody have any questions or comments, thoughts about the asuras that you want to share? If not, you can just think about it, and we can come back after. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 3:10, and we'll do a short meditation. And then, if you have any thoughts over that break, we can talk about them afterward. All right, so see everybody back here in 10 minutes. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Let me know when you get back to your seats.
We're back.
Great.
I'm back.
I'm back too.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay. I don't see Deetika yet. Oh, there's. All right. So we're going to do a short, I guess, 10-minute. Yeah, 10 minutes is what we've been doing. We'll do a 10-minute meditation. This time, instead of whatever you normally do, I think we'll do something very different. So normally, as a basic meditation practice, we sit and we put our attention on something. Like deliberately pay attention to a specific feeling in our body or a mental thing that we make, or a feeling that we generate, like loving kindness, goodwill. And sometimes we try to analyze or understand our mental processes. This time, for just 10 minutes, literally don't do anything. Like if your mind goes crazy, let it go crazy. If it's silent, let it be silent. Just sit and do nothing at all and just see how it goes. See what happens. Okay, start now. Okay. Yeah, that's one we don't normally don't do a lot of. I don't even do a lot of it myself, but there are some schools of Buddhism that just do that alone, and they say that's it. That's all you have to do. Nothing at all. Just sit still and don't do anything. Some people like it a lot. So you might want to play with it, see if you find it helpful. I think some people get kind of overwhelmed when they do that by what their mind's doing. I don't know about you guys. How do you feel if you just sit and don't try and do anything? Is it nice? Is it peaceful? Is it frustrating? What happens when you do that? Go into it. Yeah.
I kind of prefer breathing meditation more.
Okay. What happens when you just don't deliberately do anything? Does your mind get scattered and kind of wander around and annoy you a bit, or?
It's kind of chaotic.
Yeah, I think that is common. I've definitely been to. There's some Zen places that like to do it this way. They just sit and do nothing at all. My experience is that, especially for people who don't have a lot of experience in meditation, it's very hard. Ironically, the instruction is simple: don't do anything at all. If your mind is wandering, just let it. Just don't do anything to interfere. And that seems really simple, but I think a lot of the time people get, especially at the beginning when they're practicing meditation, emotionally involved in whatever's happening in their mind, and it's hard to kind of sidestep it. That's the trick. You just kind of sidestep it, and it's like, yeah, the river's going by, but you're not in the water, right? But that's hard to do if you can't recognize that it's not a big deal. And in order to do that, I think you have to find some way to calm yourself down a little bit first. And so breathing meditation or reciting some mantra or whatever else you like to focus on for a bit, I think getting that down a bit first is very helpful. But if you can sit quietly while doing nothing, go ahead, play with it, see if you find it helpful. It can be a valuable practice too. Not one I engage in a ton, but I've done it before, and it's definitely helpful in its own way. All right, let's chat for about 20-ish minutes, 25 minutes or so. Does anybody have anything that's been going on lately that they want to talk about in their lives or in the world? Or is there anything with your meditation practice you want to discuss? Or do you want to talk about Asuras some more? Let's just open it up, whatever you want to talk about.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh yes, happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, that's right. It's Valentine's Day today. I actually had forgotten about that. I think, yes, of course, Deb and I, Deb's my partner. She lives here with me. She and I, neither of us are really big fans of Valentine's Day. We don't really do anything special for it. So I actually forgot, but thanks for reminding us. Yes, it is Valentine's Day. That's, I don't know if there's anything particularly relevant to be said about it from a Buddhist perspective. I don't even know if it's really a proper, like a lot of the Christian saints have like feasts or celebrations on various days. I don't know if this is actually the right day for that. I have no idea. I don't know the first thing about it. But I guess the only thing to be said from a Buddhist perspective is if you're going to be romantically involved with someone, just keep the 5 precepts, treat them with love and respect and benevolence, and it'll probably all work out okay. That's all I think I can say for it. Yeah. Is it everybody? I think Tuesday, some of the lockdown restrictions are ending. Is that affecting any of you guys? Are you going to be doing anything differently as a result, or is it just the same old, same old?
Not really. It's just going to be normal.
Okay, yeah. And schools are still all online from home, right?
Mm-hmm. They moved March break to April. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Why did they do that? Is it because they don't want people mingling right now? I mean, it doesn't seem like that would happen anyway.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But now we basically have a 2-week break in April because now there's Easter and we have 3 or 4 PT days and then also March break. So
that adds up to 2 weeks. Okay.
I think it's to stop travel. I think during March break, like they're trying to stop it.
Okay. So they don't want people going on little local vacations or something with their families during March break.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Seems like a reasonable precaution. Yeah. Well, I hope that it won't drive you guys too nuts to have to work, right through it when normally you would get a break now. It can definitely be a lot of it can definitely be very, very stressful working continuously. I definitely know because I have to do it. I have to do it too. I haven't had a real break in a while. So it's and there's a lot going on in the world. So it really catches up with you. Are you all feeling okay? Like, in terms of school, are you feeling on top of it still? Are you getting stressed out by everything? Or are you just managing to keep, have you found a new rhythm?
Yeah, I've basically gotten used to it by now, this new schedule.
Okay. All right. That's good.
Mhm.
It's I wonder, there's not like it's really going to affect you guys that much because there's no vaccinations that have been tested on like people who are under 18, on children or youth, but like there's also not, even if everybody were vaccinated tomorrow, who could be, I think you probably would have a similar situation at school. Like this will probably go on for quite some time, I imagine. So pace yourself. Got a long way to go. Yeah, because that's definitely, that's going to be annoying for a while. Did anybody have any questions about Asuras or thoughts about them? Had you all heard of them before, I guess, or they're not much discussed, I think, in Theravada at least.
Mike, I have a quick question.
Yep.
So because Asuras and Devas, because they're fighting, that means that at some point they should both feel pain during their battles, right?
Yeah. Presumably there's at least some amount of pain, yeah.
So if there was like one Deva or Asura who was born in that life, but then for their entire life they just felt pain because they were like on the front line of a battle, would that be like a less fortunate birth?
I would say that's certainly a less meritorious position. If you I think even like on the human scale, right? If you're born a human but you experience chronic pain, or if you are chronically poor and you suffer your whole life from struggling to get out of poverty, this would be considered misfortune. I think it is unfortunate, and usually there's at least some element of that is connected with merit in the past. So yeah, I think it would be considered a less virtuous birth to be stuck in a position where you have to constantly fight and to be constantly injured or in pain, even if you don't die. It's definitely unfortunate.
So would that means would it be possible to both be a deva, like have a higher class than a human, but still have a life that's worse than a normal human's?
It's a good question. I think this is sort of subjective and hard to define, right? Because arguably humans are actually more fortunate than devas already. Because although the devas may experience less pain, your average deva experiences less pain and suffering and poverty or whatever than a human. But in some ways they're less fortunate than us because they don't feel the same sense of urgency we do, because they think they're immortal. And so that is a kind of misfortune for sure. They're less likely to engage in meritorious activity, for example, because they're not concerned. They're like, I got lots of time, so they have that attitude generally. And so because they're less likely to engage in meritorious activity, they're less likely to be reborn again as a deva. So a human is more likely to be reborn as a deva than a deva is, right? So it's very tricky to say. But from the perspective of just sheer raw experience, like having a positive or negative experience in that birth, I'd say it's pretty unlikely that at least based on the way that the commentaries and texts describe them, it seems to be the case that the existence of devas is so much more pleasant than being a human. I would say that the minor inconvenience of being batted around a little bit by some asuras is probably not that great. You know, it seems almost like the battle between them is more like a game than anything. It's like humans play sports and have a fun time in it, even if you get kicked around or, you know, like, I mean, like one time when I was doing like some sports in my youth, I remember I got like a bloody nose, right? A friend, you know, kicked me in the face like while we were playing sports, and I got a bloody nose, but I didn't really mind, you know, it wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't like, I didn't break my nose or anything. It's kind of like that, you know, they're like roughhousing a lot. So maybe it's possible that they could have like a more unpleasant experience, but generally just like being a deva, like having a deva body, for example, is so much more pleasant than being a human. We often discount how uncomfortable a human body is. And I think that's a really interesting thing that we experience a bit more when we practice meditation. If you guys probably have noticed this, if you try to sit for a long time, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and practice meditation, you'll notice that you can never quite find a posture that's comfortable. Like what's going on there? It's the fact that your body is sort of intrinsically uncomfortable. Like a human body is never quite at ease. A deva body is much less so. So they have like, their bodies are just nicer than ours. So it's kind of like overall being a deva is like just so much better in a variety of ways that I think, yeah, it probably would be hard to be a deva and experience a more uncomfortable existence than a human. But as I said, that's maybe not necessarily more fortunate, because our discomfort can tell us a lot about the nature of life and of existence, and so that's also extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a really good question, though. But yeah, I would say generally aspire to be a human or a deva. Don't try and go lower than that. If you can hit the fruit of stream entry, then you don't have to worry about any of the lower realms anymore. That's a very good goal to strive for. And then you just have to worry about a few more births, and most of them will be either human or a deva, and then it's no problem at all. In Myanmar, they think that's a very important objective. Buddhists there tend to see it as being really, really difficult these days to become an arahant, but they think it's much more achievable to become a stream winner. So they say, well, if you can get that, then, you know, at least you got not too much more problem on your hands. So they work very hard for that goal.
Mike, I have a question. I think I should know this, but like you said that the deva, they die and like they stay for a long time, but also they pass away. So after they pass away, where do they go?
It depends on their merit, right? So if the deva has like a lot of merit built up, then they might remain a deva. They might come back as another deva, or they could fall to the human realm, or they could plunge all the way down to niraya. It's not unheard of for beings in the legends and myths to zip back and forth between the top and the bottom, or anywhere in between. It's very hard to predict. In the canon, in the suttas, the Buddha's disciples several times, I think in different places, ask, hey, how can I understand this mechanism? What are the rules for karma? Like, how do I know what behavior will send me here, there, somewhere else? How do I know? And he said, it's really hard to tell because samsara is without beginning. You can't really tell when the seeds you've planted will ripen. So it could be something you did ages and ages ago. This person's a deva, and maybe they were even pretty well behaved as a deva, but then they could just go straight down to niraya because there's something that they did ages ago that just never quite came up, and then way down they go right to and this is really the peril. If it were easy to predict with straightforward rules about like, if you do this in this life, you're guaranteed go to heaven, you're going to be a deva, no problem. If it were that clear cut, samsara wouldn't be so much of a problem. You just like figure out those rules and follow them. But because it's without beginning, and the time it takes for all these things to work themselves out is not consistent all the time, it's very hard to predict. So they become reborn. They're reborn like any other being in one of the realms of existence as some other kind of being. Of course, the exception is if that deva is an arya, if they're some kind of awakened being, even if they've just glimpsed it for a moment, then they can never fall below the human realm again. So if that deva is somebody who in their previous life was a stream winner or a once returner or a non-returner, they will be reborn either as a deva or a human. They can't go any lower than that. That's the one exception to the chaotic, the chaos of samsara, is if you have glimpsed the unconditioned, if you have glimpsed nibbana, you can't fall too far.
So that means like if a deva passes away, can they attain nibbana or can they not?
Yes, yeah, is my understanding they can. Devas, the classic Theravada answer to the question is that devas can attain nibbana, yes, directly from being a deva. And your last life could be a deva as well. There's also a kind of realm, I think we talked about it a bit later, they're called pure realms, and they are like, they're sort of like heavens or deva realms. It's hard to kind of classify the beings who live there, but they're kind of like a special kind of heaven or a special kind of deva realm where the beings who live there are guaranteed, this is their guaranteed last life. And then from there, they always pass into nibbana from that plane. So they live there in this pleasant existence, sort of as a kind of a quasi-deva situation. And then when they pass from there, they go straight to nibbana. They don't come back again. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Good questions. It's described that when a deva, so there's a couple of ways this can happen. A deva could pass into nibbana at the end of their life, in which case they would sort of die the normal way. If I remember correctly in the commentaries, when a deva passes away in a normal death, they sort of all of a sudden get sick and really smelly and gross. And like they kind of their body starts to fall apart very, very rapidly. And the other devas don't like that because they're all prudish and they only like nice, pleasant things. So they kind of like shun them. And so they become kind of ostracized and alone for the last period of their lives. And then this is a very short period, like for a deva, very rapidly. The other devas shun them, leave them alone, and then they kind of, their bodies decay and then they disappear. If a deva attains nibbana from the state of being a deva, they just disappear because the deva body is much more ethereal. It's much fuzzier than a human body. It's not like a hard knot of meat like ours is. It's kind of a fluffy, spacey god body. So according to the commentarial literature, when a deva passes into nibbana, they just go poof and they're gone, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if it's really described in the suttas that much, or if it's just commentary literature. I don't know what the basis of that is. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but that's just how it's described in some places.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, so just some fun facts. Yeah. All right. Any other questions about asuras or devas or the mythology, the war in heaven, any of that stuff?
Mike?
Yeah.
Just to confirm, to clarify, so to become an asura, you just have to hate devas, right?
I don't know if it's that clear cut. It's about, because some people who don't even believe in devas could become an asura, right? Like many people don't believe that devas exist. I don't think that's a prerequisite. It's like you behave in a very certain way or you cultivate a certain mindset. And that's kind of like this, you know how you think of the Norse gods in Asgard as like smashing things and raiding and like fighting and being rowdy all the time and like that kind of thing. You presumably heard of like Norse mythology. You get Asgard and then they're always like fighting and beating each other up. And then when they die, they just wake up again and keep fighting and drinking and eating, all that stuff. That's kind of the asura state. Actually, Asgard means the realm of the asuras in Norse, like the word Aesir in Norse means asura. It's the same word, and Asgard means the realm of the Aesir. So it's actually the Norse mythology kind of depicts it much more clearly than the Pali Buddhist tradition. So I think that's kind of interesting. So, but you just have to cultivate that kind of attitude, that sort of like rowdy, carousing, violent, chauvinistic attitude, I think, is that of the Asura.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So yeah, hatred of the devas is not necessarily going to send you to be an Asura. It's more about that kind of they're very often very greedy or power hungry or competitive, and I guess yeah, between one another. It's that kind of like, yeah, I think chauvinistic is a good word for it. You know, there's this kind of it's often discussed in the media these days, this kind of like old boys club culture, you know, that you see in some places, a frat house kind of mentality. That's kind of what it is, I think. So if you constantly seek power, or you're showing off, you're trying to get like one up on each other and outcompete your peers just for the sake of being better, and you just and there's a certain element of greed in there as well. Those kind of pervade that mindset.
Mike, I have a question, another quick question. So
Yeah.
are some asuras good? Because I've heard that some yaku, like they turned into monks and stuff. So are some asuras good too, or no?
That's a great question. I'm not sure about the answer to that. But for devas, there is a definite answer. So possibly the same applies, in at least in the Theravada tradition. I'm saying this is all from the perspective of the Theravada commentarial tradition. I don't know if this is like definitely really true at all, literally. I'm not saying that. But in the Kathavatu, which is a book, it's kind of a later book in the Theravada canon, that addresses all kinds of like specific questions, like this kind of one, like for example, can a layperson become an arhat, or can you hear sound in a certain meditative state, or like very specific odd questions that were important at the time. So this book answers a lot of them, and one of those questions was, is there a monastic tradition among the devas? Like, is there a brahmacharya? Is there a celibate life or a monk life? Is there a monastic life tradition among devas? And the Kathavatu gives the Theravada answer is yes. They don't necessarily like all wear the monk robes and shave their heads, but they have the same life. That lifestyle exists among devas. That some devas will renounce sense pleasure, seek out renunciation, like renounce the world and seek out enlightenment. So the devas definitely have that according to the Theravada tradition. So possibly some asuras would as well. I don't know, but that's a really good question, worth investigating. I would say it's probably less likely than among the devas, because the mindset of the asura is so much the other way. It's like it's all about greed and gathering and gain and power, that it's unlikely that they would swim against that current. But hey, anybody can. It's part of our nature too as humans. So possibly, yeah. It's an interesting question, no?
Thank you. I also have another quick question.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Okay, so can asuras attain nibbana?
So traditionally, again, this is from the Theravada perspective. Traditionally, only two classes of beings can attain nibbana directly from that life. Like, I mean, ultimately, any being can do it in the Theravada perspective, but sometimes they would have to be reborn a few times. Like, they have to change to a different state. But directly from the state of a human or the state of a deva, one can attain nibbana according to the Theravada tradition. So I would say the answer is probably no for the asuras. I don't think the Theravada tradition admits the possibility of an asura directly attaining nibbana from that life.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not spoken of anywhere. But I don't think all the Buddhist traditions agree on this. And like generally Mahayana traditions, for example, are much more open-minded about this kind of thing, and their teachers and their commentaries and literature will often have cases of people or beings in other states attaining nibbana directly, like from the animal realm straight away, or from wherever else. So it's not like all Buddhists agree on this. I just wanted to put that out there just to make sure you know that it's like, oh, if I don't agree with this position, I'm not a good Buddhist, or Buddhism is wrong or something. There's not like one monolithic position. But we're discussing this from the perspective of a Theravada temple. So I'm going to present those ideas as kind of like the default, but it's I'm not saying that that's necessarily right. So you don't have to agree with this. I'm just kind of presenting it as the starting point. Because your parents are all Sinhalese, right? And that's generally a Theravadan culture. It's a Theravadan temple. So we're going to go with that as the kind of working hypothesis, but feel free to disagree.
I also have another quick question. Are there like male and female asuras, or is just asuras?
I think they have gender. I think they do. It's a great question, though.
I think there is asuri.
Yeah. Grammatically, that makes sense. You could say, yeah, asuri could exist. I think in the Hindu tradition, they would definitely have female asuras. I think it certainly fits their sort of mode of being. Usually, whether or not a being has gender, because even devas have gender. Whether or not a being has a gender is usually dependent on whether, like, if they're in the realm of sense desire, right? I think all beings in the sense desire realm have gender. So there's only two other realms. Almost everything we're talking about right now is in the sense desire realm, but there are two other very small realms in terms of the number of beings, and those are the form realm, i.e. beings that have a form but no sense desire. And so those are the Brahma beings, or the Brahma gods. And then there's the formless realm, and those are like also kinds of Brahma beings, but they have no bodies. They're just pure mind alone. And they are, neither of those kinds of beings have gender. I think they're just past that point. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. But I think all the beings in the sense desire realm have gender. So that would include asuras.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there would be asuri, as you say, or asuras with a long A, but I think it's asuri. Let's see if it describes it in the textbook. I don't actually know. Asuras, broken mind. Blah, blah. No. Yeah, I don't see anywhere. But definitely in the mythology of other Indo-European traditions, we have asuras with more than one gender as well. We see that in like Greek mythology, the Titans are the equivalent, and I think they have male and female Titans. So yeah, elsewhere, and I think the Hindu tradition also has male and female asuras. I'm seeing here, let's see. Oh yeah, the Asura Rahu. Rahu is a specific Asura who's got a name. Talking about eclipses here. Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't know if it says in the textbook, it doesn't mention it specifically. I've never heard mention of it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the correct answer is that because from the, Theravada tradition is that all beings in sense desire realm have gender. And that's because sense desire realm is driven by sense desires, and the most fundamental one is the desire to procreate, to continue to exist, and that is rooted in gender, in sexual reproduction. And so that the beings in that realm have sex. They physically have sex, and they also have the biological trait of one sex or another. Although it's not strictly binary. I don't know if we talked a bit earlier about the human realm. There are other classifications of gender in the Theravada tradition, and there's the idea of people who have say like being homosexual is considered its own kind of category, and being asexual, or all these other kinds of categories. A lot of them are mentioned. Hermaphrodites and so on. So that those are all considered in the commentarial literature, although they're not really very common, so they're not discussed much. And that is, is true in even now when we pay more attention to the rights of minorities and individual kind of like small groups of individuals. Even so, people who are neither male nor female are or like not in those clean categories are extremely unusual. And although we should treat them with respect and dignity, the old Buddhist texts don't talk very much about them. So it's hard to say how they're treated by the ancient traditions.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's probably it. Unless there are any other pressing questions, I will hand it over to Bhante Chandima. I hope that all of the technical setup went well today, and that the stream was good, and there are no glitches. Let's see. It should be that the breakout room is done, but I don't know if. Yeah. Okay. There's no one in it. So that's good. I don't want to have people split up into different rooms. All right. Yeah. Okay, then in that case, Bhante Chandima can lead the closing of the session.
Yeah. Jesu Sankemani Bhagavan Kate Kincho Vidya Samangi Tam Suvi Tam Sa Natante Mukhi Ragami Ragami Nijamasoka Dhamma Sangha Mapati Kona Madhure Mitman Nam Suvi Bhaktam Dhamma Mitman Sangha Dinne Mahapademahu Chatususochisu Seyugisu Teche Puhe Dhamme Tasasi Sangeni Nante Muhi. Thank you, Mike. So the next date is gonna be 28.
Yeah, let's see here, the last day of the month. Yeah, the 28th is the next one, and we will be talking about. We're working our way through these miscellaneous beings. We will be. Oh yeah, the miscellaneous beings is the name of the next one, and we'll be talking about various things like nagas and yakas that don't fit into the scheme very nicely that we've talked about so far. So those are maybe some of the more interesting ones because they fit into folklore. They come into folklore a lot, so that's kind of interesting.
Do you have a plan to have a kind of a debate one more time in the future? Have an idea?
That's a good question.
With the things you've been teaching already, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if a debate is maybe a debate. I'm not sure if that's the best format for the kind of material we've been covering this year. I think more of a creative project might be more interesting. Although I think I want to, have everyone's input on this. I don't want to just unilaterally decide this is what we're doing. Be creative, kids. That's the rule. I think I want some give and take with you guys. If you think that would be good, think it over. I think, and then we could talk about it in the next session. But decide if you think a creative project, maybe like write a story or do a piece of artwork, drawing or something. I think that would be pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one, because the reason is normally when we have the Dhamma school, physical Dhamma school at temple, we do an assembly, every, you know,
Mhm.
3 to 4 months
Mhm.
during the academic, days. So yeah, that's a good one because I think they know a lot of other beings now, different other beings that
Yeah.
they never heard before, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like talking about asuras is not very common, for example. I think in a lot of Theravada countries, they're not as part of the folklore. So I think maybe something like if you like drawing, do some artwork about, like depicting the various realms might be interesting, or write a short story about someone who maybe visits one of these realms or something like this, might be an interesting way to go about it. But if anybody has any other good ideas, I welcome them. And think about it over the next 2 weeks, and on the 28th, you could pitch something if you have a better idea or something that you really want to do instead. Please do
you
mention.
have any idea now?
Yeah. If there's anything you guys can think of right away,
like a thought.
Yeah. Does anything else come to mind?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a debate or creative project like Mike.
Well, I mean, I also don't like debating because then you are trying to, we did it once.
Yeah.
Yeah, creative work. Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm open to anything, Hamza.
Yeah, think it over. What about Avini?
Yeah, I like the creative idea,
Okay.
but I'll be fine with anything.
Have 2 weeks of time, right, to think over and then, right?
Yeah. So if you can come up with another idea in the meantime. It's think it over. And if you want to do that idea with a creative project, you can also just think of all kinds of different ways to do it. Maybe you could, if you're musically inclined, you could write a song, or I don't know. This is what I'm thinking of. But if there's another good format to do it. Also, like normally we could do things like skits or whatever for people who like acting, but that's really hard right now. So I think we probably will avoid those kinds of approaches.
Did you also teach them the white elephants? The one behind you?
About the white elephant? We talked about elephants. We did. I think we talked about the story. I think I mentioned about the elephant, the dream of Queen Maya. I think I mentioned that earlier on in the course. But yeah, okay. If you guys think of any good ideas in the meantime, feel free to present them. And if you like one of the other of the ideas that's already been mentioned, you can throw your vote behind that, and then we'll decide. Yeah, we'll try and decide next time in 2 weeks what we're gonna do.
Do they tell during the class, or can they email or something to you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what?
What would you guys prefer? Yeah. I mean, if you all submit your ideas through email or submit your vote through email, that's easy to keep track of and very formal. But if you just want to do a yay, nay, or something during the class, that's okay with me too, because I mean, we are recording it anyway now, so it's we'll have a record of it if we need to count the votes or something. So I'm not too worried about it either way.
Yeah. So if they want to email, then should they email the temple?
Well, let's find out. Do you guys want to email your preferences to us, or would you rather just do a simple like raise your hands kind of thing? How do you guys want to go about it?
I think a vote would be better because then you can see what other people in the class would like, and maybe you could tailor your vote for that.
Okay.
What would work for you? Do you want me to give the temple email or directly you want? Because then you will. Because anyways, you are the one who's reading that.
I'm okay with like last time. I think everybody with the final exam. I think everyone just emailed me directly, right? So that's fine. Again, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Do you guys have Mike's email already? Naomi?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
I can send it in the WeChat. The WhatsApp. I don't use WeChat. I don't recommend anybody use WeChat. I'm just putting that out there.
WeChat is a Chinese company, right?
Yeah, WeChat is owned by Tencent, and I work in cybersecurity, so I'm paranoid about these things.
You can write the email here, right? In the chat.
I could, yeah. I'll just send it to you here, yeah. let's just make sure that's not popping up in the good. Yeah, I do want to keep that private. I don't want that to go up on the YouTube in YouTube. So that's my email. If you ever need to email me about something or anything like that, but I think we could just do it as a simple like show of hands if you prefer next time.
Yeah, please, because when the mic left the ended the session, it will be gone. You can't have access to this.
But yeah, that's right. The chat will be wiped. So if you really want my email, it's there.
Email address.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
What are the options again?
For in terms of projects, like what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a fixed number. My idea was just that we could do some kind of creative thing where you might write a story or you might draw a picture or a painting or something that is relevant to one or more of these realms that we've talked about. That's what I was thinking would be a good format for a sort of semester project or something. But if you guys can think of other good ideas, please pitch them. I'm not really dead set on that one idea, so I'm open to others. So there's no fixed list of options is the answer. It's dependent on you guys and your own creative potential. So I encourage you to exercise it, and if you have any good ideas, you can share them. Next class we can talk about it. You could email them to me, or you could, if you tell your parents, they can convey it in the WhatsApp chat. I think they're all in there. So those are different ways you can send your ideas on.
Not for Deloitte and Dylan, right? They are in a different class.
Yeah. You guys don't have to worry about this. Deloitte and Dylan. This is your own. You have your own class. Don't worry about this. You don't have to do any of this stuff.
Thank you.
Somebody has a question.
Oh, does someone have a question? I don't think so.
No, right?
Nope, we're good.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Hamdu.
Yeah, please continue.
Thank you, Hamdu. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Hamdu. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone? Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. See you in 2 weeks.